gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
What is going on, CaneSport? It is Izubee, Charles, and good morning to you all. It is October 11th, 2023, and I would like to thank everyone for joining us this morning on Good Morning CaneSport. Today, I'm joined by Stephen Wagner as we break down the news of the day. This morning, we have a bunch of stories on the site, and we'll start with another film analysis of North Carolina. We already broke down what challenge Drake May presents for the Hurricanes, but now we take a look at that running back group and what challenges they may present Lance Guidry and his defense. So make sure to check out that analysis on another position group that might be a little bit dangerous for the Miami defense come Saturday. Plus, make sure to check out our post-practice reactions from Tyler Van Dyke, Matt Lee, and Ruben Bain as they discuss a handful of things, as well as Mario Cristobal's update on the team and how everything's been since that Georgia Tech loss. Wags, I have to give you credit for this one. During the summer leading up to the season, all of us put in our predictions for the season, and you were the only one brave enough and smart enough to put, hey, I think this Georgia Tech game might be a little tricky for Miami coming off a bye week. What you wrote, I feel like you're a prophet. What you wrote in your, decision to pick Georgia Tech kind of came true with Mario Cristobal slipping up in big games and things like that. Just run me back through why you decided to pick that Georgia Tech game as a blunder, and just what do you think Miami needs to do to bounce back from what we saw Saturday night?
Yeah, I talked about this on the other day with Matt and Gary on Good Morning CaneSport. I think it was Monday, but really, like, the way that I viewed this was every single season that Mario Cristobal has had as a head coach, take aside last season, which was probably the worst season that he's had as a head coach. Every year, he has had really, really high highs and really low lows. You look at 2018 when he was at Oregon. They blow like a 31-10 lead or something like that to Stanford, which included a similar fumble with just a few seconds left in the game and ultimately ended up costing them the game. But that same year, they knocked off a top 10 Washington team for the first time in like what felt like forever because of the lows that Oregon had had up to that point. A few years later, they end up going to Ohio State and knocking off the Buckeyes in Columbus. A few weeks after that, they somehow lose to a horrible Stanford team on the road in a game that honestly looked a lot like the Miami game against Georgia Tech. So there's definitely – you're never going to be as good as you think you are. You're never going to be as bad as you think you are. You're going to be somewhere in the middle. And I still think Miami is going to be somewhere in the middle. So do I think that they're consistently going to be that same team that went out and basically thumped Texas A&M for effectively 3 quarters of that game early in the season? No, I probably don't. But do I think that that's going to be the same team that somehow found a way to lose to Georgia Tech, a not good Georgia Tech team, not a horrible Georgia Tech team? They've had worse, especially in recent years, but definitely not a good team either. So I think that they're probably somewhere in the middle. If I had to guess, I'd say that I probably still think this team is capable of winning 7 or 8 games, kind of on, just kind of what I feel like the general sense of things is. But going into North Carolina, I mean, this is hands down the best team that they've played so far, and it's probably going to be the toughest environment that they've played in so far. They haven't beaten North Carolina in some time. Mac Brown has made Chapel Hill a surprisingly difficult place to play, especially since he arrived there for his second bout with the Tar Heels. Drake May, I think personally, is probably still the second best quarterback in this class behind Caleb Williams. So Miami's going to have their plate full. But on the bright side, I do think that Miami acknowledges, and Mario Cristobal acknowledges, that this means that they have to come out aggressive. They cannot play scared. They can't afford to play scared. And that's going to mean a very attacking offensive scheme and a very attacking defensive scheme. I would be really, really surprised if Miami doesn't have a very good first quarter against North Carolina, because I think that they're going to understand how important it is to set the tone early. And like I said with Matt and Gary the other day, if Miami beats North Carolina in Chapel Hill this weekend, all of a sudden Georgia Tech seems like a lifetime ago. That game is well in the rearview mirror, and all of a sudden the buzz goes back to, oh man, we've got Clemson at home up next. Can we sell out Hard Rock, and can we beat Clemson for the first time in I don't know how long? So I still think that it's not the end of the world. Do I think that Georgia Tech loss was good? Absolutely not. That was horrendous. But if Miami wins these next couple of weeks, if Miami wins these next 2 games, heck, even if they just beat North Carolina this weekend, all of a sudden, not a lot of people are going to be talking about Georgia Tech.
Yeah, no, this is kind of my first time talking about the Georgia Tech game with all our CaneSports, subscribers and followers, and I was in shock, honestly, with all what happened Saturday. But you got to leave the past in the past, and I feel like that game is kind of a learning lesson for Miami. Obviously, they were on their high horse, 4-0. You got that big win against A&M. You're coming off a bye week. You're feeling good, and then boom, you get punched in the mouth by a Georgia Tech team that just got punched in the mouth by Bowling Green. So I feel like Miami can take that as a learning lesson. Hey, do not get too high on that horse. Do not think, you're unbeatable. Do not think you're the best thing since sliced bread. So obviously a lot of bad things you can take away from that game. But me, I always like to take away the positive. And I feel like this is a gut check for Miami. And what better way to really check it than going up to UNC and facing a team that you haven't beaten in 3 years that have been 3 really close contests. So I'm really, really excited to see what Miami does this Saturday against USC. I think, like you said, Miami's going to come out firing on cylinders. It's going to be if they're able to keep that up for all 4 quarters, and I think that would be, really, really big. But, let's leave that Georgia Tech game in the past. I know a lot of people still want to talk about that. Hey, it happened. There's nothing, Miami or anyone can do to reverse that call, reverse anything that happened. So UNC, that's the focus now. But, after that game, Miami kind of got a sigh of relief or a Band-Aid for their hurting with the commitment of Nye Carr out of Colquitt County, Georgia, the top 70 wide receiver who recently decommitted from Georgia. I spoke with his head coach, Sean Calhoun, at Colquitt County, and he told me this kid is just the ultimate wide receiver that you'd want, a slot threat with amazing hands. And through 6 games in the senior year, he's broken the school receiving record with 35 touchdowns. And I kind of was scratching my head, like 6 games and he's broken the career record. And then you check his senior stats. He has 12 touchdowns through 6 games, averaging 2 touchdowns a game. A very, very talented prospect. Steven, you spoke with him about the insides of his commitment, why he decided to stick with his pledge with Miami following that Georgia Tech game and just everything that led up to it. Just what were some things that you picked up after talking to Nye Carr about why he decided to become a Hurricane?
Yeah, so we had the chance to catch up with Nye before the game, and I was kind of intrigued by, how chipper he seemed. Well, it turned out he was really chipper because he had just committed to Miami a little bit before that. He actually silent committed to Miami just before the Georgia Tech game. And right after the game, nothing really changed for him. He left the stadium. Unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to chat with him, and everything was set for him to go ahead and publicly announce his commitment Sunday night at 6. So really, I think at the end of the day, this came down to he got down to Miami and he saw from Miami's campus. He took away from his meetings with Miami's coaching staff everything that he felt like he needed to see and take away. And he's never really been one to dilly-dally. And so he just saw an opportunity and took it. He said, the time feels right. Let's go ahead and commit. Let's go ahead and knock this out of the way now. He did tell me that he's also planning on totally shutting down his recruitment. He currently does not have any visits to any additional programs scheduled, and he's not in active contact with any other schools. So if I'm Miami, I'm feeling really, really good about where things sit with this receiver class, especially. We've already established this is hands down the most talented receiver class from a recruiting standpoint that Miami has signed since 2008. That was the last time that Miami signed 3 receivers all ranked within the top 150. Chance Robinson, JoJo Trader, and now Nye Carr. If you have to grade this receivers class, it gets an A. Even without the addition of Jeremiah Smith, it definitely gets an A. And I really feel like Jeremiah or a Jeremiah Smith or a Ryan Wingo, although obviously Jeremiah more than Ryan Wingo. Ryan's not a name that we've heard sometimes, but I'm just throwing 5-star names out there. If you get one of those, really elite game-changing players generational talents at receiver, then I think Miami would definitely take another guy. But even if Miami doesn't, I feel fantastic about where things sit. It's really hard not to be optimistic about this class.
Yeah, while Nye might be Miami's newest commit, those 2024 guys have been doing their thing, halfway through their senior season. And, Steven, we've had the chance to watch a lot of these guys in South Florida and a couple guys on, television as well at highlights and things like that. You put together a group of guys in that 2024 class that you've been really, really impressed with. Without giving too much away, just kind of name 2 or 3 guys on that list and just why you decided to go with them.
I will say I have loved the way that Chance Robinson has looked, especially. I'm particularly high on Chance, and I think he has developed in every way that we've wanted to see. He has shown development in every area that we kind of had question marks about. Is he faster? Yeah, he is. Is he stronger? Yeah, he is. Is he more durable? Yeah, he is. Did he expand his catch radius to the point where now he's doing a much, much better job actually catching the ball away from his frame and improving his hand strength? Yeah, he's doing that too. I have seen him hit on really every area that I even had a little bit of a question about. And I think he is becoming a really, really nice and well-rounded receiver. I think one thing that we're going to want to continue to see from him is I want to see him kind of, continue to work on his ability in open space. I want to see him get better at short yardage catch and run situations, even though I think he's already made a pretty good step. I think that's going to be what separates him at the next level in terms of what his overall ceiling can be, is how good can he be in a lot of these run after catch situations? Can he take that next step and be sort of that next level player that I think is really going to be his ceiling? But yeah, I have loved absolutely everything that I've seen from Chance Robinson. It's really hard for me not to love what I've seen from Chance Robinson. And then Zaquan Patterson too. Zaquan, really a lot of his, the hype around Zaquan comes from just his natural athleticism and the fact that, really he's like a linebacker who plays safety. You kind of look at, one, his size, strength, and speed, but two, also kind of the way he plays. He prefers to play in the box. He prefers to be attacking. He prefers to have his presence felt in the box and around the line of scrimmage. He wants to make offenses feel uncomfortable at the line of scrimmage. But really, I think I've seen him take a pretty good step forward in terms of his overall pass coverage abilities. I think he's gotten both better in man coverage and in zone coverage. And I think we've definitely seen that through a few games this year, but again, not going to give the whole thing away.
Yeah, no, very good list of guys that you put together. And I just kind of want to talk about another guy on that list, Kevin Riley, without, talking too much about him. He's been impressive since the first time I ever turned on his tape last fall. He was unranked, and I was just like, how is this guy not among some of the best running backs in the country? And he's continued to prove that. He's having a great senior year and a guy that I'm really excited to see get down to Miami and kind of do his things for the Hurricanes. But make sure to check out Mr. Wag's list of his kind of top performers from the 2024 class midway through their senior years. And sticking with, the 2024 group, Miami recently offered a 2024 defensive back out of Fort Myers, Florida, Bishop Rowe High School, 3-star safety Leroy Roker, who's kind of seen his recruitment, pick up a little bit. He was kind of a, under the radar guy. And then Iowa first offered him, and then Ohio State offered him, and then now Miami jumped in the mix and offered him as well. He's a dual sport athlete, plays both football and basketball. And he's a really good safety, real rangy guy. You can see where that basketball skill set comes in with jump balls, in the third half in the field and things like that. And Jamil Adai has been building a relationship with him in Miami. He's been showing him, a lot of love recently. Obviously, his recruitment is just picking up, but definitely an intriguing name to, watch in that 2024 class as we get closer to signing day. So make sure to check out that update on Leroy Roker out of Fort Myers, Florida, Bishop Rowe High School. Jump into the 2025 class now. We caught up with TJ Alford, a linebacker out of Vero Beach who was at the Miami game. I believe it was his second game day visit this year, and he's liking what he's seen from Miami despite the loss. And then we have another update on a 2026 wide receiver, Aaron Gregory, who was one of the top players in that 2026 class. He was also at Miami. Steven, don't want to hold you too long, but just a quick, rundown of those two guys from the 2025 class and 2026 class.
Yeah, basically just a quick synopsis of what they said was, the loss was bad, but this isn't what they think is going to define Miami. It was a weird, fluky loss that probably isn't ever going to happen again. It's kind of unlike anything that we've seen in college football in quite some time, and they don't know when the next time is going to be that they're going to see something like that. So they were pretty quick to dismiss the loss. In all actuality, they've more just paid attention to the detail that Miami's been recruiting them with and the relationships they've been able to build with the staff. Specifically, for TJ Alford, that's going to be Derek Nicholson, and for Aaron Gregory, that's going to be Kevin Beard. Now, Aaron's a 2026 guy, so he can't have a crazy amount of contact with Miami's coaches just because of kind of like the natural. I don't even want to call them safeguards, procedures that coaches are forced to go through to talk to underclassmen recruits. But overall, I really don't think that it's time to hit the panic button by any means on these guys. I don't think it's really time to hit the panic button for really very many guys. If I'm a Miami fan, I'm not extremely worried. I'm a little bit disappointed that, obviously you lost the game, but it doesn't look like this is going to have really a tremendous impact on Miami's ability to recruit moving forward. Remember, I hate to say it, but Mario's been through things like this before at Oregon, knocking off Ohio State and then somehow losing to Stanford, knocking off a top 10 Washington team at home, and then a few weeks later going to a really bad Arizona team and getting absolutely railroaded. So I'm not uber concerned. I don't think Miami is uber concerned. I don't think fans should be very concerned as well.
Yeah, that was kind of the same vibe I got from talking with all the guys after the game. Just obviously, a lot of guys were in shock, but a lot of guys were, obviously Miami's making strides, and they're noticing that. I feel like Cam Pruitt put it best. He said, "Hey, last year Miami was 2-2, and then they got lost to North Carolina the next week. Hey, we're 4-1 this year. We're progressing. Things are still in kind of that rebuilding stage. It's not there just yet, but just give it some time." And Mario Cristobal and his guys are on their way to getting Miami back to what it used to be. Not the Miami's back hype, and a lot of people love to say just Miami's getting back to where it used to be. So a lot of good stuff came out of this weekend, despite the tough loss. And recruits, like Steven said, we're not hitting the panic button. No recruits are really hitting the panic button. So looks like things are looking all right in Coral Gables. And if there's one thing Mario Cristobal can do, it's recruit. So I feel like that's something that fans will never, or anyone will never have to worry about. But that's all that we have for this episode of Good Morning CaneSport. For Steven Wagner, I'm Izubee Charles. Thank you for joining. Have a great rest of your day.